Cubing missed its chance to become a real sport, and because I've been a speedcuber for over 10 years, I want to see the community grow. So in this video, I'm going to explain how the cubing community grows and why we missed such a massive opportunity, then break down the 4 things I think we're missing and need to grow into a healthy sport. I have a whole whiteboard full of thoughts and diagrams that I want to go through, but first, how does the cubing community grow at all? This is what I would call the cubing funnel. People roughly start on the left side of this funnel and move over to the right. Most people first interact with cubing as a curious bystander. They're kind of interested in puzzles. Maybe there's some large outside event that drew them toward a cube, like being stuck at home or seeing a TV show about their puzzle. Maybe they saw some sort of short on YouTube or an Instagram reel that made them curious about Rubik's Cubes. Maybe they watched a documentary or movie like The Speedcubers on Netflix, or maybe they have a Rubik's Cube laying around the house and they want to learn to solve it. Any of these things can take somebody from being curious about Rubik's Cubes to actually having interest, to entering into the funnel of cubing. The main place that people start to actually become part of the cubing community is through beginner tutorials, how to solve the Rubik's Cube, how to solve a 4x4 or a 2x2. And then they'll watch a few videos about hardware, this speed cube versus that speed cube, what makes speed cubes good versus bad, what speed cube should you buy. Those are the main 2 entry points into what I would call the real cubing community. There are lots of ways that people get pushed from I might be interested to get to this point, but those are the entryways. Additionally, when you're kind of in the top of the funnel of the cubing community, you're watching a lot of entertainment videos. These are things like battling the world champion or unboxing lots of puzzles. These don't really have educational value, they're just fun to watch and based around the subject of cubing. Additionally, as you're transitioning from this introductory top of funnel phase over into the middle of funnel phase, you start to watch things like major world records that are going on. If you start to notice when world records are being broken, you subscribe to Team On, you subscribe to Max Park, you know when Yihang breaks a world record, you're becoming a more dedicated cuber. And a major type of content that brings people from sort of interested in Rubik's Cubes to very interested is what I would call edutainment content. These are things like stories about how somebody went from slow to fast in competition, or puzzle theory disguised as a video essay. Those are things that are both fun to watch and draw people deeper into the art and sport of speed cubing. A major milestone that takes people from top of funnel to what I would call middle of funnel in the cubing community is joining a community group, something like the Cubers Reddit or a local Discord server. As you get very solidly into the community of cubing, what I would call middle of funnel, you start to watch many advanced tutorials. You're probably learning extra algorithms for your last layer. You're probably learning about F2L. You're probably finding out about things like look ahead, and you're learning more specific things about hardware than just watching one review about the best speed cube of 2025. This is also about the time when cubers will normally attend their first competition. If you've attended a competition and have learned a serious speed cubing method, know a good bit of hardware, and are in some sort of online community, you probably are very aware of all the entertainment and edutainment content on YouTube. You keep up with major world records, but even more than that, you're like following specific extra cubers. You're watching not only the world records, but also national records or continental records. You're watching the leaderboards and noticing people who switch around in the top 10 or top 100 of cubing. These people are not just watching the top of funnel YouTube content, and they're not just watching major documentaries. They're actually into the speed cubing community, keeping track of leaderboards and advanced kind of niche stuff. Beyond that, the middle of funnel phase is what I would call the dedicated cuber phase. And this is where you get to what I think is kind of the bottom of funnel. And this is where you have really deep knowledge of speed cubing. So instead of watching tutorials, you probably are mostly going to watch walkthrough solves or videos from top solvers breaking down specific techniques. You don't really care about beginner-oriented guides or even structured tutorials because you have a framework in your head of how to improve at cubing. You almost certainly regularly attend competitions, which is a huge indicator of how dedicated you are to cubing. You know enough about physical cubes, like what the different companies produce and how they feel, what lubes do, etc., to not really have to watch reviews to make a purchasing decision. You know I like GAN cubes or I like small 3x3s, and without even watching many reviews, you can probably make an informed decision about what puzzles you want to buy. So reviews and unboxings play much less of a role for you at this stage of the life cycle. Additionally, you've probably found a circle of friends, a local Discord server, a friend group from your competitions, or a few small YouTube channels that have a few hundred subscribers that you're loyally watching and commenting on because they're your friends. You're not just in the giant r/Cubers server or Reddit. You have a very narrow, specific circle of people who you hang out with and talk to. You have found your spot. Something that I think is pretty indicative of cubers at this level is, especially as you get to like the very bottom of the funnel, they will watch a raw solve video from somebody who's not in the top 5 and enjoy it. So they'll pull up like a 5x5 average of 5 from somebody who's like 10th in New Zealand, and they'll watch it and be like, this is great, I'm enjoying this. That's a super good indicator that you are a very dedicated cuber. And then there are people who I call contributors that build the funnel. These are people who have no real interest in cubing content. Once you've gotten this far down the funnel, you don't watch the big YouTubers really, unless you're just like learning for the memes or keeping up with the community. You're probably an organizer, a delegate, or a really, really, really regular competition attender. You're almost certainly making content, speed cubing content, volunteering at your local competitions or in your local cubing community. And if there's content about new puzzles, it basically doesn't matter for you. If you've gotten to this level of the cubing life cycle, you know what you like, even more than this person. You'll just try a friend's cube and know if you like it or not. Or you're sponsored by a company and you get free puzzles. So that's what I would call the cubing life cycle. And it's normally somewhere in this yellow portion or this red portion that somebody starts to attend competitions, which is the main thing that makes people stick to the cubing community. That's how I'm going to measure growth. How many people are coming to World Cube Association competitions each year? There are leading indicators of that, which I'll break down in a minute. But let's look at those numbers. Thank you so much to Ryan Fong for helping me pull all these numbers. These are all from the World Cube Association's actual database, so I'm not making these up. You can just query the database yourself if you're interested. But this is a really interesting graph. You can see that new people were consistently finding cubing in higher and higher numbers every year up until COVID happened. We had a couple of down years and then a massive spike in the back half of 2022 and 2023 of new competitors. Almost 40,000 new people competed in a cubing competition in 2023. But there's been a sharp decline in the years since COVID. Why is that? Well, it's because top of funnel factors went away. COVID was a cultural event. It made a lot of people curious about Rubik's Cubes. And then there was lots and lots of top of funnel content at this time. JPerm and Cubehead were the biggest they've ever been at this time in terms of peak, like average viewership per day, which means that beginner tutorials, basic information about hardware, and entertaining and edutainment videos were everywhere. High quality, frequent uploads. So people had lots of ways to convert themselves from curious bystanders right over to this stuff. There was tons of it available. As such, when competitions came back after COVID, tons of people competed. But the interesting thing is if you look at the total number of people who compete for a year, this number is not increasing. This number has stayed flat, which means that our funnel has holes in it. When new people come into the community, they don't stick around for very long. Like many of them do, which I'll get to in a second, but this number is not going up. Total competitors per year is actually pretty flat in the last few years and slightly going down this year. This number is not all of 2025. I'm recording this during the beginning of the third week of November. This is the expected number of competitors if you take the number of competitors per week in 25 and you multiply it by 52. So it's based on historical data projected out to the future for the data people in here. But yeah, the total competitors in cubing is actually flat and declining, which means that we failed to capture all this new interest and maintain it in the community. We did a decently good job, but it wasn't phenomenal. Same thing is true of competitions per year. Demand hugely spiked. Like, competitions were so hard to register for around this 2022-2023 period. I'm going to move my camera so you can actually see the numbers over here. But then, like, now a lot of competitions are pretty easy to get into, but the number of competitions we're hosting is still high because the amount of delegates that regions have and the way organizers are running competitions, like, there's still a lot of competitions happening. They're just not as full as they used to be. Yet, at the same time, the core of the cubing community is the strongest it's ever been. And my number to support that is how many people have been at the biggest competition each year. So the biggest competition in 2015 was the China Championship, and that was 500 people. The biggest competition this year in 2025 was the World Championship, and that had 1,800 people. Last year was Euros at 1,100. So the major competitions where the core contributors to speedcubing all assemble in one place have by far more people than they ever have before, as well as higher online viewership. So the core of the cubing community is quite strong. Why is that true now, and where did all the new people go? Well, I have some thoughts on all of that. I think there are 4 big pieces that we're missing in the cubing community. And because of those missing pieces, we failed to keep a lot of these new people around, and we're failing to bring in more new people at similar levels to what we had here. Obviously, we can't recreate COVID where everybody got stuck at home with Rubik's Cubes, learned them from YouTube, and went back. But there are some missing pieces. And the interesting thing is, this really high biggest competition number is a lagging indicator of all the new people that came in post-COVID. Tons of people during COVID learned cubing, found cubing, went to a competition here, and a small fraction of these people eventually became hardcore cubers, which is why right now we're seeing the absolute biggest competitions in cubing history. I would predict that unless something changes that I lay out in this video, we will actually see the biggest competitions flatline and then decline over the next 5 years because the top of funnel is declining. That just means that 2, 3, 4 years later, the bottom of the funnel will probably also shrink. So what do I think are the missing pieces in cubing's funnel? I would argue 4 big things. The first big one is topics for content. Something really interesting about cubing is that the top of the funnel consistently runs out of material. Almost every major cubing content creator kind of runs out of stuff to talk about. The biggest ones I'm thinking about here are JPerm and Cubehead. They kind of had a golden era where they were making educational videos, entertaining videos, edutainment videos, and then they just kind of fell off, partly because of burnout and partly because there's a limited amount of information around the topic of cubing, limited events that people pay attention to, limited theories within each of those events. As a consequence, new cubers can find old top of funnel content, right? Like pretty much every dedicated cuber has their own story of all the old YouTube channels they like to watch. The cubing community is really a bunch of people who sit at home and like to watch YouTube. But if new people show up to cubing, they don't really feel like they're part of the current community, if that makes sense, because there's no current content or current community event to rally around, to feel like, wow, we're all in this together. When JPerm used to drop new videos or Cubehead used to drop new videos, you kind of found this group of people who was all focused on the same stuff. Now there isn't a great equivalent at the top of funnel like that. We have super competitive stuff like, the North American All-Stars Championship, but that's bottom of funnel. People at the top of funnel aren't watching that stuff, only dedicated cubers. The solution to this, in my opinion, where do we get more topics for content creators? It's to have really good competitive coverage. When you have consistent tournaments focused on the storylines of the people or teams going on, there is literally infinite content to make. This is why sports broadcasters never, ever, ever run out of things to talk about, because they can cover all the recent games that teams have played against each other and how the players are shaping up on different teams and who's ahead and who's behind and what things are going to look like in the playoff. If you have a competitive scene to cover, there is an infinite well of content which top of funnel creators can take and turn into educational entertainment and edutainment content, which means that we would have a robust thing that new cubers who somehow get interest in can come to. The second big thing that I think cubing is missing right now is a sound competitive structure. And what I mean by the word sound is a lot of things. Competitors need to feel legit. So right now, the cubing community is very grassroots. It feels very homegrown. I love that about cubing. It's super fun to go to a competition and just feel like it's me and a bunch of my friends solving puzzles in a school gym. But when stuff like a world champion getting unworld championed because of something they didn't even do is possible within the regulations, something needs to change. If you don't know about the incident I'm talking about, at the World Championships this year, there was a solver who won the World Championship at Championship, and then after the fact, the organizers realized that somebody, somehow, somewhere, some way, that the puzzle that they solved was off, like the scramble was messed up by one tiny move. And even though that wasn't the competitor's fault, and the move was actually detrimental to the solve, it didn't give them an advantage, the world champion title was taken away, which is kind of odd. It's like, imagine a ref in an NFL game puts the football down at the wrong yard line and gives a team a disadvantage. The team wins the game, and then they're told, never mind, we're giving the other team the win because the ref made a mistake. Like, it's super weird. I don't really have enough information to know like what the regulations say and all this, but if something like that can even be in the discussion, the competitive structure is not sound. Like, there's growing pains going on right now. Additionally, broadcasting needs to feel more legitimate as well. Right now, the streams and content we have around competitive cubing feels kind of homegrown. And I've talked to the Speed Cubing TV guys about this. They're in the right direction, but it doesn't feel professional. If I show it to my wife or my family or my friends, they think it's like a hobby stream, not a real sports stream. There's just a difference in quality between something like that, and even if you look at other niche sports like cornhole or pickleball, those feel like I'm watching a broadcast, whereas cubing feels like I'm watching a stream. Maybe we lean into that, but it's unlikely that we grow the top of funnel through that. Another big thing, and this is a huge opinion of mine, is cubing needs to focus on storylines and spectacle over pure technical excellence. And this is a bit of a hot take, but here's what I mean. If you look at the funnel of cubing, one of the big things that drove cubing interest alongside COVID, which was the huge opportunity we missed, a giant demand spike from COVID, additionally was this documentary, The Speed Cubers. The Speed Cubers was a phenomenal movie. It was like an hour long, it was short. And it was a human story that used speed cubing as the vehicle. It was not centered around cubing. That's why it did well. It didn't focus on the cubing part, it focused on the people part. It made it so that cubers liked it because there was enough cubing for them to care, but it also made it so that non-cubers liked it because it was about the competitors. This is what makes mainstream sports successful. The vast majority of sports fans do not care about the mechanics of the sports game they watch. They aren't going, wow, that quarterback's throw was perfect, or wow, that baseball swing was immaculate. Maybe the announcers are talking about that, and a few hardcore fans are thinking like that, but most of the sports fans are going, yes, my team is winning, or that player I like is doing well, or, oh, the team I hate is losing. It's about the storyline, the teams, the entities competing, not about the craft itself. The NFL mission statement, the National Football League, the most successful sports broadcasting organization in the world, is to deliver the world's most exciting sports and entertainment experience. It is not just a sports experience, it is an entertainment experience. Right there at the top, which is different from the World Cube Association, which their goal is to provide like fair and equal conditions to everybody and more access to competitions. It's a fundamentally different thing. That's why the sport of football and the Broadcasting Association and the opportunities to be professional are so huge, because spectacle and entertainment are prioritized over technical excellence. Technical excellence is required, encouraged based on the rules of the league. But when the deepest opportunity for athletic expression and a good viewer experience come into conflict, the viewer experience wins, not the football player's opportunity to express themselves. I could go deeper on this, and I will in a different video, but for right now, that's a big thing about the soundness of our competitive structure. As a consequence of all these things, the somewhat growing pains around regulations, the kind of not super legit broadcasts that feel kind of homegrown, and then the fact that right now, cubing kind of focuses on how good of a solver are you, not on how do we create head-to-head storylines or build up the people involved. Our viewership is kind of mediocre. If you look at the viewership of our All-Star Championship, it really wasn't all that great in comparison to pretty much any other niche sports like B-tier championship. We have few to no what I would call true fans of cubing, people who watch it just to watch it. Just about every other successful niche sport, e-sport, etc. has a ton of people who watch it and are not at a high level in the craft. If you go and watch like League of Legends or Super Smash Bros. In the esports world, or Ultimate Frisbee, or some sort of like not ultra main sport like golf, there are people who watch the game very attentively that are not the highest level of competitor. They just like watching the thing. Cubing has none of that. If you watch competitive cubing, you are interested in being a cuber yourself. You are at least a semi-competent speed cuber, almost certainly a very competent one. And additionally, there are effectively no what I would call stable competitors. People who have enough money, enough time, and enough mental focus to make cubing their number one and exclusive priority. I'll talk more about cash and why money is important later, but that's the consequence of kind of our not super sound competitive structure. And the solutions to that are really complicated. I'm going to make a different video next week talking about how to grow competitive cubing. This is about growing cubing more broadly. But here's what the takeaway of all of that is. I'm going to move my camera to the right now. So missing these two things, missing good topics for content that don't run out, and missing a sound competitive structure that both allows competitors to be excellent, create storylines, and an entertaining experience, that's why our COVID era giant spike in growth right here fizzled out. The top of funnel creators, the people who were pulling in new viewers, kind of died away. They were there to intake this giant influx of people that was due to external factors like COVID and the speed cubers. But once those people got into the community, there was no unifying competitive scene with good coverage. Casuals started to lose interest because there's not a bunch of entertaining events to keep them interested and invested and motivated. And a lot of competitors don't have a reason to stick around because there's not a good growth path of I'm winning, I'm beating other people. It's just kind of like, well, I'm improving against my own times. There wasn't really viewership for events. We've had massive viewership for something like a world championship, but overall viewership of like YouTube content, if you look at any of the major cubing channels, it's died down significantly since COVID. Competition attendance has dropped, if you look at the numbers I just showed you, etc. Because we did not have this right here, and these things over here feed into this, the massive influx we had at the top of the funnel fizzled out. The core of the community is bigger than ever. Like I said, the World Championship was the biggest competition of all time. Competitive speed cubing is the healthiest it's ever been, in my opinion. But the top of the funnel is pretty much empty. There are few to no really good cubing content creators right now. There are a massively decreasing number of new people interested in cubing. And as such, I think the core of the community will shrink back soon, like I said earlier. Cubing feels very homegrown, which is the nature of the community and was great for its time. And I love that about cubing, but it's limited. If our goal is to preserve the cubing community that already exists, then we're fine. We don't need to change anything. We're going to have a stable community of hardcore speed cubers and volunteer-run competitions until the end of time, basically, because Rubik's Cubes exist, because people will find it in their house, they'll find YouTube videos about it, etc. But if we want the sport to grow, if we want people to be able to show the discipline at the highest level that it can be shown, to have people who can dedicate their entire life to the excellence of cubing, to bring new eyes onto the sport, to bring the joy of solving Rubik's Cubes and getting faster at it to as many people as possible, then this stuff has to change. I want those things more than I want the current version of cubing to be preserved. But I also am not super involved in the World Cube Association. I don't know all the people who formed it and have contributed basically their life to getting cubing to where it is now. So if you're one of those people watching this, understand that's where I'm coming from. It's not anything personal against what you have done. These two things right here, topics for content and a sound competitive structure, if you think about cubing as a funnel, right? Top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Topics for content addresses the top half of the funnel, content. And a sound competitive experience, I think, addresses almost the entire funnel, comp. It doesn't address the true top of funnel because brand new people don't care about the competitive experience. They care about learning to solve almost always. But if we had a sound competitive experience with a good viewer experience, that would basically fix our growth issue. So how do we accomplish that? How do we go from, YouTubers who like cubing to the next level? The other two things I believe that we're missing are, first off, lifetime dedicated experts. These are people who have one main focus, their area of discipline within cubing. People like content creators who deeply know the scene and stick around for 10 years or longer. They don't just swing by on a short-term stint. We need solvers who improve in skill for a lifetime. We really haven't seen any competitive cuber who continues past college age, seriously. Felix Zemdegs is still going, but he's also kind of busy managing the Australian government's hedge fund, which is totally awesome, but it means he's not focused on cubing. Kevin Hayes just podiumed in 7x7 at the last national championship about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But he's also a software engineer at Google, and he's not improving, he's mostly maintaining his previous skill. We've never had somebody who can be a lifetime expert, or at least the available lifetime you have to be a cubing athlete. There are people like Tom Brady who are super long-time athletes but only make it about halfway through their lifespan in their discipline. But we've never had a cuber who does this for more than a few years anyway. This would push the discipline incredibly far. We need producers, content creators, and broadcasters who understand every nuance of the sport of cubing so that we can have announcers who are great at drawing out the human side of the story and commentating the technical side of the solve. Right now, we are severely lacking in broadcasters and commentators who are really good at commentating in such a way that both new and experienced people enjoy it. We need business people who learn the dance of the audience that watches cubing, the draw of the sport and what makes it fun. Know how to communicate with outside businesses or sponsors or interested parties who have money or influence that could grow cubing, and navigate all of that relative to competitive bodies like the World Cube Association or the PSL. Business people are important here because money is the catalyst for all of this stuff. I don't want cubing to grow so that people can get rich. I want cubing to grow because cubing is awesome. But money is a necessary tool to speed up decision-making and enable people to focus on the discipline. We need people who are also, this is so interesting. Business people understand how to change organizations. They understand how to lead people. And right now, cubing is almost entirely nonprofits and very slow-moving organizations, which has gotten us this far. But in order for cubing to grow to a high level, we need leaders, managers, organizers, executives, like the chief executive that the World Cube Association is trying to hire right now, who understand how all these parts work together and can be a leader who can sell ideas, sell products to different parties involved, and get people to make change. We need competitive regulators who create excellent atmospheres for both the spectacle and the sport. This may already be happening inside the WCA, albeit slowly. I'm not an expert enough to draw a definitive conclusion. But the consequence of not having any people who are truly dedicated to cubing, there might be a handful, let me know if you truly are a full-time cuber in the comments below, is that because almost all of us cube as a passion, because of the love of the game, none of us have enough energy to break an area beyond the glass ceiling, I would call it. There's something magical about when something is truly your one focus. Being able to think about something nonstop, to dedicate all your time to it and not worry about how is this time affecting something else, you can break into completely different stratospheres of skill or results. In business, people who pick one business and do it insanely well, 9 times out of 10 are the best performers in their industry because they dedicate every compute cycle their brain has to one problem. Guys like Elon Musk, who run like 9 billion businesses at once, are by far the exception. The solution, in my opinion, is money, at least in part. We need people in cubing who love cubing for what it is. Money will never be enough to draw people to cubing. And if we had enough money where that would be the case, things would kind of get dangerous. And I'll explain that in a second. But money would allow people who already love cubing to dedicate their life to it. Money unlocks focus. Money unlocks people. Money unlocks tools and viewership. That's why I think money would be helpful here. So that's the last thing that I think we need is cash to make content creation a competitive structure focused on viewership and dedicated experts across disciplines sustainable. Why? It unlocks total focus, like I've already said. Money draws people, which creates competition, and competition is the best way to generate new ideas. I'm a capitalist and business guy, if you can't tell. But when money is involved, that is a magnet for innovation. Money never lies. This is something that I've learned in the business world. You can have an idea and everybody loves your idea, but until they give you money for it, you don't actually know if your idea is good. And if people will give you money, you know you have an idea that they want because they'll put their money behind it. People can tell me, hey, your startup idea is great all they want, but I've stopped coming up with startup ideas and I've just tried launching products. And if people will pay me for the thing I'm offering, whether it's a website, a software, or a physical good, I know that they actually want it. If there's money in cubing, people will come and do great work. Not say they'll do great work, not have ideas about the great work they could do someday, but actually do it because there's money there. You can quibble with me on this idea, but this is like how I found the world to work so far. There's obviously a huge downside to adding money into cubing. Everything around ethics, because people will do all sorts of awful things to earn money. Rules have to become super airtight because people will find every way to bend the rules to make a little bit of money. Governing how like infractions and problems work, and people coming into cubing not just because they love cubing, but because they want money. Like there's a whole bunch of weird things that happen when you add money into a system. But like with every upside, there's always a downside. And with the upside of growth would come the downside of people who see the growth and latch onto it for the wrong reasons. So that's like the con to this whole thing. And a big reason why cubing is such an amazing community is because it's not about the money. It's a bunch of people who love the other people in the community and love the craft, and so are there for those reasons. But if we want to add money into the cubing community, the first step is to grow competitive cubing, as in the viewer experience, to a solid level. Then find a rich patron. The arts, for the longest time, have required rich people to fund them. Normally, money comes when you provide utility. It is useful. I pay for food because I need it to survive. Food is useful. I pay for a place to live because I need it to like sleep and survive. A house is useful. Art is not useful, but it is beautiful. It is lovely. It provides a different sort of value, but it's a value that normally money does not reflect. So, artists have historically relied on finding one person who finds value in their work and where money is not important to that person because they have so much of it. Then one of these rich patrons, a family, an individual, would like sponsor an artist. And this is how Da Vinci worked. This is how the Sistine Chapel got painted. One rich person who had lots of money and believed in the thing, along with influence, would apply their money and influence to this thing they liked. Cubing needs to mature its competitive scene and broadcasting enough so that if we get another insane opportunity like COVID and the Speedcubers, we can capture it. We can sell, wow, look at what cubing is. Look at the broadcast and the potential they have, the dedicated competitors, the system we have, all the people who want to compete at a high level. And then go to a celebrity, a broadcaster, a rich business person and say, hey, look what this could become. Are you in? Will you support this? I think of people like Ludwig who run events for video games or just like other fun stuff because he thinks it's cool and basically does it at break even or a loss, but he has the cash to do it, the business know-how to do it, and a company of experts behind it so he can pull off a great event. And he has a giant audience that he can point at it. If we can find someone like that, once the foundation of competitive cubing is solid, dude, cubing could explode. On top of that, we have to apply the cash to the right strategic points. So you can't just have cash and like let it sit in the treasury. There has to be some way to like distribute the cash to solvers, but not just like to everybody, to people so that they can exclusively focus on their thing. Like, I think it would be better to have less cubers who are like fully paid for than lots of cubers who are partially paid for, because then you unlock like total focus and excellence in a few, which drives competition. I mean, I can see arguments for both. I've gone back and forth about that in my head. And then we also, great content, like I already said, and this is a flywheel. As soon as you start having great content created, sponsors show up, which means money flows into the system, which means competitors and content creators have money to make content about the competitive system, which draws more people to watch it and more competitors into the system, and it spirals. But the foundation is a great competitive rule set and broadcasting experience, and then some sort of rich patron to start the whole thing, who is willing to invest even if it doesn't make great financial sense. Okay, that's a whole lot of things. So, like, what am I doing? I'm some dude who's yapping about this. Who am I? Why am I talking? Well, I can only control me. I can't control everybody else. So what I'm doing about all of this is not trying to change the WCA. It is not trying to change competitive broadcasting, and it is not trying to hire a rich business person. I mean, maybe someday if my software business goes huge, then I can dump cash into cubing. But until that day, I am just dedicating my time to becoming a world-class speed cuber, and I'm documenting everything that I do. If you're new to the channel, every week I make a plan about what cubing I'm going to do, and I'm being coached by Luke Greiser on what sort of things I should do and why. I log literally everything I do, every solve, how many minutes it takes, the time that it is, and put all the results every day into a spreadsheet. Then once a week, I make a video like this one where I share my thoughts about what I've done and how it went. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to have resources and content to mature and deepen competitive cubing. Even if I can't control the rule set or the broadcasting experience, I can make content that caters to an older audience of serious cubers. Right now, there's not a lot of cubing content that targets an older audience. People who will stick around cubing for a long time. People who have the spending power to actually buy products or coaching services. The people who advertisers would want to get in front of. As a result of all of that, like that's why I want to make content. And so like this sort of content that I make, I think number one, eventually will create a competitive storyline. People, if they become fans of what I'm doing, will root for me, not just like excellent cubing. I don't know if I'll ever have cubing fans or not. I'm just going to make content because it's awesome, and I hope I kind of like make some friends through doing it. But someday there will be a storyline about all the work that Brandon True has put into cubing, and will he make finals this nationals, you know? Someday, 3-4 years from now, I hope to put on a show like that. For new cubers, I want to create like guidelines for them. As a business person, I love business people who document their whole business journey, who just sit down in front of a camera each week and go, hey, here's the stuff I did in my business this week. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't. Here's why. Here's how much money I made. It gives me so much insight into what they're thinking, and then it makes me want to grow as a business person myself. I want to do that for cubers. I want to show here's the hours I put into practice. Here's what I did and why. Here's how much I grew, so that I can motivate other people to get better. That will grow the cubing community in its own way. And as a really, really, really moonshot dream, I want to build a brand that rich patrons can get behind. Ultimately, convincing like a rich patron to support cubing, it will take one very accomplished, strong brand person who knows how to sell and knows how to speak that person's language. And I would hope that someday that can be me. If I get an opportunity to work with a streamer, an influencer, a rich business person, a brand, etc., that I could have enough sway, connection, and development in the cubing community to pull something that helps cubing grow. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Now, all that being said, here is my update for the week about my training, what I did, and what I'll be doing next week. if you're still with me this far into the video, I'm going to shout out this timestamp. Whatever timestamp it is right now, I'll flash it on the screen. Drop that in the comments below. Let me know that you got all the way through this far into the video. It's crazy if you've listened to me yap for almost 40 minutes. Thank you so much for getting this far. You are the faithful few. So we're back to our regularly scheduled programming. Every week I make a training plan, log it, and then review it and make a plan for the next week. My ultimate goal is to get to the final round at a major championship for everything from 3x3 up to 7x7 at least one time, sometime by 2031. And today I did this yap about growing cubing, and now we're going to go over what I did last week and how I'm going to improve during next week of training. My next competition is Temecula Valley Winter. I'll be doing 3, 4, and 6, and I'm currently not sponsored by anybody. So what did I do last week? Well, I did about 12 hours of 3x3 practice, and it was almost all solves. I was doing 2-look F2L, where I scrambled the cube with the cross solved. I solved the first pair. I scrambled the cube with the cross solved. I inspect till I can see my first 2 pairs, close my eyes, solve those, open my eyes, inspect the second 2, close my eyes, solve them. And I did that until I got 15 successes. And then I did about 100 solves a day. This week, I was globaling like mid-10, which is really good because 2 weeks ago, I was globaling low 12. So I'm down like a second and a half in about 2 weeks, which is very solid. Results from this week. My stamina has gone up substantially. A few weeks ago, I was doing like 50 solves of 3x3 in a row, and I was getting really tired. Now I'm solving for almost 3 hours, 100 3x3 solves, and then like my F2L drills, and then solves on 4x4 all the way through 7x7, and I feel tired at the end of that 3 hours, but not destroyed. My ability to cube for a long time is improving. So your skill to solve 1 cube fast is trainable, and your skill to solve for a long time is trainable. And my stamina skill is improving, which is really cool. Something I noticed this last week is I'm starting to have to very hard fight falling back into bad habits. So about 40 to 50 solves into a session, I noticed that I stop looking ahead as actively. I start to watch the pair I'm currently solving instead of the one that's coming up next. Or with last layer recognition, I'll start looking at the back of the cube. Like I'll pick up the cube and I'll literally turn it so I can see the back. That's so stupid. You never need to do that. So I've caught myself a lot this week, like late into a session, kind of wasting my solves because I was doing bad habits in them instead of training the new good ones that I need to do. Additionally, I started finding a bunch of niche solutions that I did very sloppily. I'll throw a few of them on the screen here, but they're mostly F2L inserts or F2L cases where there's an edge or corner in the bottom 2 layers, and I'll take it out of its slot in a fast way, but it doesn't set up to a 3-mover. For every single case with corner or edge in the slot, you should be able to set up to a 3-mover unless there's some multi-slot or alternate insert that you really like. I have a couple cases like that. And I started noticing quite a few of these that I'm not doing correctly. Dylan Miller put a video out about this, and it was really useful. So I noticed a lot of those, and I have a plan to work on it for the next couple weeks, but that was a big revelation. On big cubes, I did 9.5 hours of practice this week, and 4x4 was really 36, 37 on it right now. 5x5, I had some very good averages this week. I had a 103 average of 5 in there somewhere, and like a 105 average of 12. Closing in on sub 1. I don't practice very much. I do 5 to 10 solves a day, but I'm pretty confident that I'll crack that barrier in the next month or 2. 6x6, I cannot seem to get consistent. I had an average of 12 this week where I was either sub 2 or like 210 and above. And it was so dumb. It was like, can I please just find a range and stick in it? But it was also cool getting that many sub 2s. I've never gotten that many in such a short time before. My TPS on 7 is atrocious. That's the problem. Like, it's just, I'm using a Meilong V2. Where is it? It's this guy right here. Ethan Cho modded this for me like a year and a half ago, and it's okay, but I feel like the magnets are way too strong and it's kind of slow. It's smooth, but maybe I just need to grind more 7x7. But because of that, I got an Alfu V5 triple track. It's on the way. It's gonna get here in a few days. I'm super excited for that because new big cubes are like super motivating. And from what I've heard about the Aofu, it's like the fastest and best 7x7 right now. And I love 7x7 in theory. It's just in practice, my hands get tired. So I'm hoping that new cube helps me solve more and solve faster. But I'm just doing the motions on big cubes, gradually growing. I'm hoping for like a 35, 34 average at my competition for 4 and like a 155, 150 average on 6x6. So a few more weeks to get there. So what am I doing next week? The theme of next week is intentional volume. So I talked about how this last week I've been falling back into bad habits. I've been wasting the volume I'm doing. I want to solve a lot. I want to do a high volume of training, but I don't want the high volume to be ineffective. Every time I do a solve, every time I do a drill, it needs to be on purpose targeting one of my weaknesses. So something Luke Greiser told me this week was, don't just track how many solves you do. Each solve you do, have a goal in mind for what you're doing. So for 25 solves, track whether you lock up or not. For 25 solves, track whether you pause after cross or not. And I have this clicker that I keep at my desk. It's just like, one of these. And I use it for a lot of stuff in my practicing, but I was like, that's an amazing idea. So now I'm going to split my solves up each day into 3 batches. A batch where I not only see how fast I go, but my goal is click the clicker if I don't pause after cross, or click the clicker if I never pause during F2L, or click it if I never lock up during the solve. So that way I'm not wasting volume. I'm actually tracking a specific skill and solving to improve that skill. I also, side note, finally, I have this big spreadsheet that I put all my training data into. So like literally every solve and how long each solve has taken me and my notes about how things went that day. Like I track every single thing. But now I have a tab where I'm tracking my averages of 100 over time. So you can see like pretty solid drop just in the last 2.5 weeks. But that's all pretty cool. Full screen it. I'm getting close here. Solves with a goal, that's what I just talked about. Write down missed cases. This is huge. Okay, so one of the things I've been training is using a website called solved.no, and let me just pull it up. And going into like their cross trainer. So under trainers, they have, this is a great website. So like cross, you can pick, like I'm gonna do a 7-move cross on yellow, and it'll draw the scramble for you. And I'll do the scramble and I'll try to find the cross and I'll solve it. I can 100% these. Why is it not loading? Come on, Safari, help me out here. But what I've noticed is there are specific sorts of cases that I will very consistently miss. So like this is what it'll look like. So like this is going to be a 7-move cross, and a super cool thing is you can unveil 1 move of the cross at a time like this. Like it's so good for training like specific inspection skills. You can even do X crosses from multiple angles. So they have like normal X cross, they have double X cross, they have diagonal X cross, they have hint. Like it's so dang good. You have to be using it. But what I noticed is there are specific types of cases that I'll miss, where like the edge moves from like the left back slot to the bottom left slot. And I'll like, my brain will just crap out on me. And Luke was like, forget tracking every time you get a correct thing in F2L or inspection. If you ever miss an inspection drill, write down the scramble and the solution and save it in a list. And then after like a week, you'll have a list of all the things you messed up on. Then go back through that list and learn those cases better. Re-scramble all of those and find the solutions. And that blew my mind. I was like, that's such a good idea. Because with like look ahead drills and inspection drills, I find that I'm either like instantly able to see whatever it is that I'm working on, or it's really hard to see where pieces are going to end up. And so keeping track of all the super hard cases is a genius idea. And side note, this is why coaching is valuable. Luke doesn't tell me very many things I don't know. I already have a general idea of almost everything he tells me, but he adds those individual nuggets that take my ideas from like kind of good to super good. And this is the case in like business and life and everything. Being 80% of the way there is okay, but a lot of your results will come from like the extra 10 or 15% of like detail at the end of your ideas. And that's what Luke has been giving me, is he takes most of my good ideas and he sharpens them to a point that he has and I don't, because he's a much better competitor than I am. So I'm going to write down every time I miss something in inspection drills and F2L drills this week. Last thing, just keep in mind, is the fundamentals are going to go very far. Obviously, if I'm trying to get to like Worlds Finals and 3x3, I've got to be really dang good. And I was like, so do I learn ZB? Like, what is my long-term plan? And Luke was like, dude, if you just get good at doing cross, planning your first pair, looking ahead well, OLL and PLL, you're going to get like sub 7 at least. We won't know if you should learn ZB or not until you're like nearing sub 8. Because then your turning style will have formed better and how you inspect will have formed up. And until then, just do the fundamentals really well. It was a good reminder. Competition prep. I started doing comp sims this week and I suck, which is not good. Like, I think I'll have very good nerve control eventually, but I just have to train my mind to do that. Up until now, all I've been focused on is developing the skill of solving well, not the skill of going through the motion of cube cover comes off, pick up the cube, inspect it well, do one solve well, wait a while, do like the competition rhythm. I need to train that. So at the end of every day, I'm going to do one competition simulation from now on, which is a good idea. I don't know why I wasn't doing that before now. So this is the drill I've ended up with. You can pause and look at it, but this is my training plan for the next week. It's probably going to be like 3.5 hours a day, something like that. So yeah, that's everything for today's video. If you have any questions or comments about my yap or my training plan, please leave it below. I read and respond to literally every comment on every one of my videos. I love seeing all of them, and I want to develop a community of engaged people around this content and not just, rage bait or farm views. Now I'm going back to work, and I'm going to do the hard work every day, especially when I don't feel like it.